The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast. Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. My name is Mike, here with Sam. Sam, how you doing?
I am doing great, Mike, to be honest. We didn't choose. Scheduling constraints meant that we could not record our main feed episode this week during what would have been yesterday, Sunday, immediately after the Bucks loss, which was a brilliant decision because I think it gave us some time to me particularly. It gave me some time to calm down and think and process. And I think we're going to have maybe a fairly tough conversation this week. Obviously, we need to talk about that Bucks loss, but in less of a raging kind of just venom-fueled way that it would have been yesterday. So that's how I'm doing. I'm doing all right.
I do feel like I'm still like operating off of pure emotion. Now, I will say I'm generally a little bit more level-headed than you, just from a general perspective. So that's probably good. But I don't deny that.
I don't.
I haven't like. Here's one thing I don't do: rewatch bad losses. Should I? Probably. It would be a good way to identify what went wrong.
There are
but
people
I am
in the
still
community
a fan. You know,
there are people in the community though who do. And maybe sometimes they're Suns fans, sometimes they're not Suns fans. Our friend who, shows up on the pod from time to time, Stephen Pridgeon, I don't know if he considers himself a Suns fan per se, but I know he's like rewatching bad tape of the team playing horribly all the time. And I think it's just a little bit different I can't do it. I cannot do that.
Yeah. And I think it's particularly an interesting time to talk about the team. Not just because of, I think, what you can call two bad losses. I think the one against Boston, it is what it is. They're just way better than the Suns right now. The one against Milwaukee, missing Giannis and just demolished the Suns. The Suns were giving them threes that were so wide open, Josh Okogie could have made them for the entire game. And now that puts them in, look, and here's the reality, right? They were on a 4-game road trip. They went 2-2, which is not awful going from west to east, but at a precarious time in the Suns schedule where they still have a significant amount of games against good teams, and at a time where they seem to mostly be unable to beat good teams unless they are Denver. I mean, the last time they beat a good team that wasn't Denver was February 13th, pre-All-Star break against Sacramento.
Yeah, and then a couple of times where they caught breaks, right? Like they squeaked by Cleveland. But that
injured,
was without Donovan Mitchell. We also didn't have Devin Booker on our side, but it just doesn't exactly count. I think the Denver game, you're right, was the last game where it felt, and even in that one, they had to come back from behind, but was the last one where it felt like they were proving something to the greater NBA sphere. And now they go out, and look, there are elements of it yesterday that was their fault, and there are elements that wasn't their fault, right? I think
insane shooting, that's for sure. And they'd left a lot of them open, but there was some insane shooting.
I think coming in with the game plan, and I even said this on Twitter, I tweeted this before the game started, I think you go into that game with a game plan of, let's take the ball out of Dame's hands, let's force their role players to beat us. I think generally that is a sound strategy, but when Bobby Portis then makes his third or fourth or fifth ridiculous three in a row, at a certain point you have to adjust. And we never saw, a million people have pointed this out. If you're listening to us, we're probably not the first one saying it at this point, 48 hours after the game. But the adjustment never came. The urgency never came. Yes, they made a fake comeback in the third quarter and another fake comeback in the fourth quarter, maybe cutting it down to 6 or 7 points. I'm sure a lot of fans had already turned off the game by then because they felt so disgusted. They had this just bad taste in their mouth. I mean, at a certain point, you had like Pat Bev taking wide open threes for, their 15th or 16th made three in the first half, and Book is nowhere, near him, like 10 feet away, not getting a hand up to contest. It was truly Just a phenomenal lack of urgency, and to display that lack of urgency in game number 68 or whatever it was, the position that they're in now, being in the play-in, that's the part that's really indefensible.
In a winnable game.
Indefensible, yeah.
It's one thing if Giannis was playing and you made the Galaxy brain take of maybe Giannis would have made it easier for the Suns to win, which I thought was hilarious.
I stand by. I kind of stand by. I think they might have.
It's impossible to beat any team that makes that much threes, and admittedly the Suns were giving them a lot of those open threes because of the defensive strategy that you described there. And with Giannis on the floor, all of a sudden they have one less three-point shooter, that's for sure, but a guy who can get to the free throw line as much as he wants. But I guess, we can talk about how the Suns' defense has just fallen off a cliff if we want. We can talk just in general how this season has been a disappointment overall. But I think maybe, like right now, the Suns are in 8th. They're tied with Dallas Mavericks, exact same record, but they do not own the tiebreaker against the Mavericks due to the last Mavericks game that they just sort of collapsed in and lost, even though it was one of the classic Suns games where they started out in a hole, made a valiant comeback, and then lost the game, which that's how they play against most good teams now, it appears. They are one game ahead of the Sacramento Kings in the win column, but I think
the Kings are playing as we speak, by the way, so we will not know the results
so that
of
could
that
change
game.
by the time, that's against Memphis, so there's a good chance the Kings actually make some ground up against the Suns. All that to say, the Suns have a few games that you can call easy. Philadelphia, no Embiid. Philadelphia's been bad lately. Atlanta, I think no Trae Young, and those are both at home. 2 games against San Antonio. Wemby is playing out of his mind, so keep in mind. And then they have Denver, OKC, New Orleans, Cleveland, Minnesota, New Orleans, Clippers, Sacramento, Minnesota.
Yeah, tough to end the season. Yeah. This is the final stand. It really is. It's like back up against the wall. I said I think 4-0 this week should be the expectation. 3-1 at the very least. Who did Atlanta just beat? Did they beat the Clippers the other night?
Yeah, they killed them.
The Clippers
they were ahead of them, handled them the entire game. Basically.
That's kind of low key. If we want to take some of the, not the pressure, the Suns deserve the pressure, but if we want to take some of the heat off,
if you just want some Schadenfreude,
yeah, exactly. If you want to partake in some Schadenfreude. The Clippers suck apparently now, which is nice to see.
They're the same as the Suns.
Yeah.
They are having the exact same issues. They've just been healthier.
Exactly.
Which is kind of funny.
They are collapsing quite a bit in the fourth quarters lately, which, I believe it or not, I actually am not the world's number one Clippers fan, so I'm excited to see that. But of course, I hope that the Suns can couple that with some success of their own.
The Suns, the thing I wanted to shift this conversation to be about here, and forgive me, we didn't prepare as far as what we're going to talk about here, you and I, but the Suns are in 8th right now, just right now, in the play-in tournament. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. That's in the play-in tournament.
You can ask me to rank all of them for maximum controversy.
I think, yeah. Can you rank all of them, and where is Kevin Durant?
And why is Kevin Durant last? I'm kidding.
Clip it and put it on TikTok.
I'm joking. All right. Yeah, Kyle, turn the TikTok camera on.
Yeah. What's the best case scenario for the Suns here? As far as the play-in, they're 3 games ahead of the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors undoubtedly have an easier schedule. They are a worse team, just in general, so far this season. So they're still going to struggle to make up those 3 games. I think there's a good chance, fingers crossed, no guarantees, the Suns are probably 7 or 8 here. I think it's very unlikely, based on the schedule that they have, that they leapfrog any of these teams to end up in the 6th spot. The Pelicans have been playing well. Injuries notwithstanding, collapses notwithstanding. It would take a collapse by the Pelicans, Kings, and Mavericks, or preferably 2 of those teams, to guarantee that the Suns make the top 6 and are out of the play-in. The
Or
most
maybe-
likely scenario is they're in the play-in tournament.
Maybe an 8-game losing streak from the Clippers too, which we're not going to completely rule out.
Yeah.
And they could drop
It'd
down.
be fantastic.
But yes, it's looks. I think 7 is probably most, or 7 or 8 is most likely right now. 6 is still possible. It is definitely still possible. 9 or 10, that would
Still
mean,
possible.
Yeah, no doubt.
Possible. Yeah.
Of course. But it would mean probably like the Suns go, I don't know, what do we have, 14 games left?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It would mean we go like 5-9, and the Warriors or someone go like 9-5, to flip those two teams. Definitely possible. But unlikely, I hope, I pray.
Unlikely.
And
7 or
and
8
look,
are most likely scenario here, yeah.
this is where we need the Stars to step up and take every game seriously in a way that they did not do plainly on Sunday. And, if they go 5-9 down the stretch and lose a bunch of games to the Kings and the Pelicans and then obviously they didn't deserve to be there anyway. I think what everyone is just afraid of is what happens after that. What does that mean for the greater Book KD Beal era? Who becomes the scapegoat? I think there's a natural answer to that question, honestly, that we all know. And just kind of what. I don't want to be here at that conversation yet because we want it to play out first, and we're still hoping that they can escape away from it. But what would be the next move?
If you don't remember how it works, if you're 7 or 8, you only have to win one game to be in the playoffs. If you're 9 or 10, first of all, the 9 and the 10 play against each other. And then they play the loser of the 7 and 8 game, and then whoever wins that game makes the NBA playoffs. So I'm looking at this sort of in a way to say, what's the best case scenario for the Suns in this play-in tournament right now? And I kind of feel like it might actually be Sacramento falls to 7, Dallas ends up in 6, and the Suns play their first game against Sacramento, assuming the Suns are in that 7 or 8, whatever, to end up playing against Sacramento. And then if they win that one game against Sacramento, they end up as the 7th seed. If they lose that game, they play the winner of either Golden State versus the Lakers in order to make the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we're looking at Luka Doncic in a one-game scenario, single-game elimination, which, by the way, if the Suns win, good for vibes. If the Suns lose, extremely bad for vibes.
What happens to the fan base? What happens to this podcast? Do we are we done? Is it over? Do we pack up? I don't know. No, definitely the Kings are the ideal situation because that's the one team out of this group that I really think you could say we have a proven track record against. We've had a lot of success going small against the Kings, and I think for the record that Nurkic can hold his own in that matchup too. But we have had a lot of success going small against that team this year, and we have the personnel to do so now, especially after the All-Star break where we added even more wing talent in the form of Royce O'Neal. So, yeah, I'm not worried about that matchup. If it's the Kings, that's good.
Anyone can beat anyone in a single game.
Of course.
For the record, the Phoenix Suns beat the 73 Warriors when the Suns had, 18 wins that season, I think they ended with? So, that can happen at any time. That's something that can happen.
But the Mavs, there's too much trauma associated with that game.
Yeah, that's the first part.
The Warriors, there's no direct trauma, I guess, because we haven't played the Warriors in the playoffs directly. But
the Suns have played them well most of the time.
Yeah, but it's
season,
still
right?
still just the star value of Steph, I think, and his ability to bend the defense and go off. And the refs, I was going to say the big one is, that's a factor for the Warriors. Really, it's a factor for the Lakers. You don't want to go into a one-game scenario. I think you stack up their roster against ours, and theoretically you feel confident. But then you go into the game knowing that the Lakers are probably working with a 7-10 free throw advantage just from the get-go. Like that, it's baked in to their strategy, and that's going to make things really difficult.
Yeah, the Suns are 2-1 against Golden State, and they don't play again this season. That's kind of weird. Normally, we play the Pacific Division teams 4 times. I imagine there's some in-game tournament things that happen there that cause the Suns to not play them.
Did they cancel a game against us when do you remember the Warriors had to cancel a couple of games?
I don't think so.
No, that wasn't against us. That wasn't against us. But yeah, okay. I don't know why that is. Probably playing tournament.
Yeah, and the Suns, by the way, are have played the Lakers 5 times because of the in-season tournament and are 2-3 in those games. The Lakers won the first 3. The Suns kind of cleaned up in the second 2, like the one everyone remembers, the Bradley Beal 37-point game where he just kind of demolished them. That's when the Suns were kind of rolling in January as they really got it going. And then the second one was post All-Star break where the Suns also played very well in that one. Grayson Allen, high scorer, but everyone kind of played well in that one, and the Suns won 123-113. The Lakers are kind of an unknown. I think the Suns would have a good chance against them, but it is one of those teams where you're playing against LeBron James, and that's a little terrifying in a single-game scenario, whereas if you were playing them in a 7-game series, the Suns, I think, would be pretty well favored in that scenario. So anyway, the reason I bring all this up is because of the way the Suns are playing. They have us in this perpetual state of standings watching constantly because we have to see where they are. Look, if they're able to make it into the 6th spot, that's kind of ideal. You know, no matter what, the first round is going to be tough for a team that's been as inconsistent as this, but being out of the play-in tournament is kind of ideal. If they end up in the play-in tournament, I think playing against Sacramento first would probably be the best case scenario for them. And they only have to win that one or win the winner of Golden State versus LA, which it's just crazy how much star power there is in the play-in tournament right now. And I think it does kind of exemplify the way that the NBA is sort of shifting finally to sort of a younger demographic of stars, whether it be SGA, number 1 in the Western Conference, Anthony Edwards, number 2, the Clippers now in a free fall. It might end up being OKC, Denver, Minnesota, New Orleans as the top 4 home court teams.
Do you consider
at the end of the season? That wouldn't surprise me.
Do you still consider like Brandon Ingram? Is he a young star? I don't really think so at this point. Sure, Zion is. Yeah, that's their young star, I guess. I mean, just, with the way that basketball is a complicated sport, and like obviously I look at Minnesota, Anthony Edwards is such a great player, but he's not really the reason that they're the 2 seed. So it becomes difficult with trying to like analyze the particular impact of like every single one of those guys. That's what the Vorps and Schnorps are for, as some of our favorite pundits would say. Yeah. But yeah, it's we are starting to feel the generational divide. We are going to continue to feel the generational divide. I think this year, just as an aside, at the Olympics is going to be really interesting. It's going to be the last stand for the elder generation of Americans trying to fight off the evil Europeans on the world stage, which should be fun as LeBron and KD and Steph team up.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Handpicked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
Now, since we just blasted all the old guys in the league, can we just quickly talk about how well Bradley Beal has been playing offensively lately? Just to give a shout out to a guy who maybe is a little bit older and still has been playing relatively well. As much as the Suns have struggled over the last few games, and maybe this is a simple, I want to say this on the record, because if we don't, somebody's going to say, why didn't they talk about Devin Booker's ankle? Maybe a lot of their struggling has to do with Devin Booker's ankle, because look, he's made 1 3 since he rolled his ankle.
Since his return, he's made 3. I've got the stats here for you. I actually think it's really weird because He's 3 for 26 on threes since his return. It's been 4 games. That's 12%. But he's shooting 59% on twos. And you watch him get to the rim. You know, he's not turning the ball over a lot. He's turning corners pretty quickly. He's finishing, you know, with either hand as he does. His finishing has been really solid over these 4 games. He just can't make a long-distance shot. And I don't know exactly. I mean, yes, obviously it's probably the ankle, but I don't know specifically mechanically what's going on there that he just doesn't quite feel his feet under him and can't get out that usual range. But whatever it is, I do want to talk about Beal in a second because I think Beal's been tremendous, but Book needs to find his range fast because if he's not extending the defense and, you know, can't make pull-up threes in time for the playoffs, then that's a massive hit to this offense.
Yeah, it's really just from a basketball perspective, watching teams destroy the Suns with threes on a back-to-back game basis with the Boston Celtics and Milwaukee Bucks, and even if you want to extend it a little bit to Charlotte, who shot 1,000 threes against the Suns and made like 3, but got a lot of open threes against the Suns. And watching the Suns, how Devin Booker plays, how Bradley Beal plays, how Kevin Durant plays. I mean, the ideal scenario I always talked about for Devin Booker before Kevin Durant got here was find a way to surround him with as much three-point shooting as possible. And just when those 3 guys are on the floor, they haven't done that. There's just not a ton of three-point shooting because all 3 of those guys don't want to do it. It's like they have to be forced to do it in order to actually take those threes.
I think KD's been a lot better, to actually give him credit for
absolutely.
One thing on this podcast that I will give KD credit for is I think he has been absolutely up to the challenge of being quicker on the draw, particularly when he receives a pass from Book, just being on the wing, you know, waiting for the ball to hit his shooting pocket and then just going straight up for a catch-and-shoot 3. Yeah. Even if he feels a contest a little bit in his face, those shots are going up. They're going in when he takes them. He needs to continue to take them and take even more of them. But what we've never really seen from KD, he's not a big, like, come around a screen and pull up with a hand in his face, self-creating three-point shooter. He'll take them, like, in transition pull-ups sometimes if he really feels that he's on a heater. But he's just not going to take pull-up threes at the same level as maybe, again, generational divide, some of the younger stars in this league. And the same is true for Book because he kind of plays an old man's game. And the same is true for Beal. Ironically, with Beal, it's because he is at his best when he's driving. And this is something we predicted to be true about his game, but we are especially feeling it now for the first time over the past 2 weeks. It feels like Bradley Beal is really putting his own unique imprint on the Suns offense and consistently applying pressure to the rim, and that is where he has been the best. So if there's any optimism about the Suns' play this week, it's that, look, Boston made 25 threes, shot like 50%. Milwaukee made 24 threes, shot like 50%. But the offense for the Suns, the offensive ratings have actually been pretty good, and a lot of that is because Bradley Beal has been awesome. So if they can keep that, and then just, you know, not give up a million open threes and on the other end, then they'll be okay.
Play focused.
Easier said than done. But Beal really driving to the rim, he has been very consistent for like 7 or 8 games now.
I'm going to read some of his stats too in just a second, but just on the 3-point point that I was making here, Grayson Allen more willing to shoot threes lately, even ones that are a little further out, slightly contested threes. And that's great. He needs to continue to do that, even if it's at the slight detriment to his 3-point percentage. If he's shooting 40%, but he's shooting 3 more a game instead of shooting 49% or whatever he has been shooting at 6 a game, fine. Shoot more. It'll help everyone out overall. It's still an excellent shot compared to what some of the Suns are shooting. The other point of that is Nurkic can't shoot threes. Now, don't get me wrong. Nurkic has a positive impact to the offense lately. And we could talk about how against really great teams, when they have 3-point shooting centers, he kind of gets played off the floor, which he did at least a couple of times in the last week. But because he doesn't shoot threes, it would be nice to have another option of a big who does. Now, there was a few moments when Bol was at center in the last few games, but they don't have a real threat from the 3-point line. Just having 3 guys who shoot mid-range, it's tough that only one of the other 5 likes to shoot threes. It'd be nice if two of those guys like to shoot threes. Now, of course, what I'm asking for is one of the hardest archetypes to find in the NBA, but it sure would be nice if they found one. Bradley Beal, in his last 6 games, the last 2 weeks that you're talking about, 22 points per game, 6.2 assists per game, 1.5 steal, 0.5 blocks, and only 2 turnovers, which I think is a big, important piece of this. And like you're talking about, because of those drives, his field goal percentage in that time is up to 56%. And I think that's for 2 reasons. It's really one reason. He's just getting easier shots because he's getting to the rim so much easier. His shiftiness has shifted from free throw line extended to 8 feet from the rim. Now all of a sudden he's stopping, spinning, turning, dropping his shoulder into someone and shooting a floater off the backboard instead of hitting a couple crossovers, shifting to the left, to the right, and then shooting a long-range, mid-range shot. Now he's getting closer to the rim, getting better shots, and that's creating better offense for guys when he's on the floor.
Yeah, he's in his like Jalen Brunson bag, I guess, to compare him to some other guard who kind of operates in the same sort of area, that short mid-range area right now. He's just been awesome, man. And the Grayson back screen, obviously you want as many like compound sets as possible, I think, when the 3 stars are on the floor and you can incorporate all 3 of them at the same time. But in the meantime, the Grayson back screen for Bradley Beal when he's on the ball is just like an automatic drive to the rim, get a bucket right now. It's and if it's not, then obviously Grayson's going to pop out and he's going to have the open 3. It's an action that I need the Suns, whether it's in stack or just other simple actions, I need the Suns to run it again and again and again, because you've got just a guy with a tremendous change of speed in Beal and the best shooter arguably in the NBA right now in Grayson Allen, and those are just 2 really dangerous tools that they could be using even more.
And Grayson, a willing screener, and then of course on the other side of that, Nurkic setting the big screen to start the playoff. It just really creates a lot of confusion when those 3 are on the floor running that play together. And Grayson's been really great, either popping out to the 3-point line or clearing that space for Brad to get to the rim. And even at times, Nurkic capable of finishing at the end of that, or at the very least, if they get it to him because the first action doesn't work, an easy reset to Brad, who's been incredibly willing to run one action and then sprint right back to the ball to run it again, which takes a lot of energy, and that's helped him to just play really well offensively. And I think he's been holding his own for a while here. In these last few games, it probably needed to take a little bit more. I think there was some bad Devin Booker games in there. Maybe he fixed his shooting percentage a little bit by the end of the game when it was over. But that Boston game in particular, a bad start from him, and it felt like it was over pretty quickly there. So Brad playing well. If Booker steps it up a little bit, ankle heals, if that's what it is, and then Kevin Durant can just be a little bit off and on, but has been on lately up until the last few games.
Just last episode, we talked about that he had just had such a sensational week, and then he comes back with 3 of his, honestly, probably worst games of the season. I don't have the box scores up here, but 3 not inspiring performances in a row from Kevin Durant. He's logging a lot of minutes. He continues to have to play 37, 38, 39 minutes every game for the Suns to have a chance. And I feel like they're not even the game against Milwaukee where Nurkic was played off the floor notwithstanding. I feel like they have been more careful about not trying to just throw him into lineups at the 5 like all the time. They don't want it to be their first move. It's more of a desperation move at this point, I feel, because they're really trying to preserve KD's energy levels for the playoffs. It's just tough. This is no secret to anyone, but here we are. We've got 3 players making up 70-75% of the salary cap. And as it so happens, even when those 3 are all healthy, if you want to beat the good teams, not just the Charlottes and the Clevelands without Donovan Mitchell or whatever, but the really, really good teams, your 3 stars need to play like 3 stars because the role players can only do so much to lift up the tide.
Well, yeah, especially Royce O'Neal, who just disappears for 5-6 quarters at a time offensively in a way that, I've never seen a player like that who just, he can be so good offensively, so great, so willing to shoot the 3, but all of a sudden can just go 0 for 10.
I've got a Royce O'Neal stat here
stretch.
Because I wanted to bring it up. I mentioned his inability to make a layup on a recent podcast. Here are all of the I don't know if I have to say all of them, but I pulled up what the Suns are shooting, like the big Suns, the guys who are actually going to log heavy minutes in the playoffs, the mainstays in the rotation, what they're all shooting less than 8 feet from the basket. Do you want to guess who's first? You're going to know who's first.
Bol.
I didn't pull Bol because I don't know how much he's going to play in the playoffs.
Him.
It probably is him. KD.
Yeah. Because he was shooting 90. He's shooting over 90% in the restricted area.
In the restricted area, yeah. I'm sure it's a little bit worse, less than 8 feet out, because then you've got the short jumpers you're including too. But KD's at 70% within 8 feet of the basket. That's insane. Book is at 63. Beal is at 61.
That's
Nurk,
actually a little bit surprising. He's probably increased that.
Yeah, it's probably better than you would have thought. Nurkic, Grayson, and EG are all like virtually tied at around 59%. Those guys will all get minutes. And then way at the bottom among the guys who we expect to actually play, Royce O'Neal. This is not just his Suns games this season, by the way. This includes his Nets games, too. So it's his entire body of work. Royce O'Neal, 49% within 8 feet of the basket is really, really tough.
It's hilarious.
There are a few NBA players, and there are a few, but they're mostly like 6-foot guards who just get blocked all the time. There are a few NBA players who are worse in layup range than Royce O'Neal or floater range.
Wait till Isaiah Thomas joins the team.
And there's our segue for the Suns made a move, Mike.
Speaking of sub 6-foot guards in the NBA,
that was not planned, but that's great.
No, Isaiah Thomas, was signed to a 10-day. We're a few days into it now already. It's expected he'll be available to play Wednesday against the Atlanta Hawks at a home game. The Suns had an open roster spot. This is just a 10-day contract. It's clear they tried to do other things with that open roster spot. DeLon Wright, I think, one of the players you can mention here. Now, of course, are likely not using it unless they, whether it be Saben Lee, Ish Wainwright, if they want to bump up one of the two-way guys before the playoffs, they can. But for now, for at least a 10-day period, are signing some sort of injury insurance, I would say, for the guards that do play, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, in Isaiah Thomas, in case they do need to play somebody because of injuries. You seem to be personally offended by this signing.
Whoa, personally offended? I don't know. I don't hate Isaiah Thomas. I will root for Isaiah Thomas. I'm actually excited to watch him play. Are we doing a playback? When's the next game? Wednesday?
No. Is Wednesday? Yeah, I think Wednesday is one we can do.
Okay, I think it's Wednesday against Philly. So join us, folks, for playback Wednesday against Philly. Okay. And maybe Isaiah Thomas plays. That would be a lot of fun. I'm not personally offended as much as I just don't get it. If the thought is to make the team better in any way, shape, or form, I don't get it. I'd rather just give Saben Lee those 10 minutes.
Do you think it's possible that the Suns had games where they were up by like 20 points, and then they put in Saben Lee, they put in a bunch of bench guys, and then they don't score for like 10 minutes straight, and then KD and Book have to take the ice off their knees and check back into the game in order to win by 8.
And they just say, we need another bucket? No, I understand.
And they just said, can we just get one guy who can just create some sort of scoring in those scenarios where they actually are up on a bad team?
I understand that, but I contrast it with the other thing that has been plaguing this team. I mean, a million things have been plaguing this team this season, but like we've talked about pace so much for this team. And honestly, I continue to feel recently when they're playing at their best, it's always like the ball is moving and they're making a concerted effort to really get into their offense early. And some of their best performances, especially in first halves recently, it's really felt like pace has been a point of emphasis for them. And then the fourth quarter comes around and they go away from it and they get blown out in the fourth quarter again and demonstrate why they're the worst fourth quarter team in the NBA.
And JJ Redick brought it up on his podcast and they're still doing it.
Right. So, I think if you recognize that, and I'm going to be completely honest. Supposedly Isaiah Thomas has been playing in the G League this year. I see he played 4 games for Salt Lake City Stars, and he scored 32.5 points per game in those 4 games for the Salt Lake City Stars, whatever I just said, at the G League level. I did not watch those games. I didn't even watch highlights of those games. I don't know what he looks like.
Pretty sure I know what they look like.
I don't know what he looks like right now. But yes,
just picture Isaiah Thomas against a G League team. You can picture it.
I just don't think 5'9" Isaiah Thomas, pounding the hell out of the rock into the ground for 20 seconds is exactly what I envision as like, oh yeah, this is what the Suns need when I think about what their offense needs.
All I'm saying is they didn't sign him before Denver, OKC, New Orleans, Cleveland on that 10-day, right? They signed him before Philadelphia, Atlanta, San Antonio. It just feels like maybe they were thinking, can we get a guy who can create a bucket if the Suns end up big in these games, which, knowing the Suns, there's no guarantee that will happen, but can they put a guy in that can actually create some offense, and who knows if he can or he can't. I'm not 100% confident in it, but based on those G League stats, it seems like a pretty good chance he's able to create some offense, at least against end-of-the-bench guys for the Suns if they need him to do it.
I will say, I forget who it was, so I apologize if that person is listening. Someone replied to me on Twitter and said that this is a Jimmer move. I'm not a fan of this move, but comparing Isaiah Thomas, a two-time All-Star who was in like MVP voting one year that less than 8 or 9 years ago, comparing him to Jimmer Fredette, who at the NBA level was always a joke, that is offensive. That is definitely offensive to IT. So
all
credit
I know
to
is
him.
They signed Thad Young, and I'm not even sure he exists anymore.
Yeah, he's there.
It's possible he was abducted.
He's there.
I'm not sure. There's no proof of it.
I'd still like to see him play, but I get it. Frank's not going to do it. So credit to
So
IT
there's
for
a
working
chance
back
Isaiah
into the
Thomas is just a towel waiver on the bench, right? That's
Sure.
possible too.
Sure. But on the
by
other hand,
Isaiah
they
Thomas.
signed Ish Wainwright, and they, he's already played.
Yeah, no, and he played immediately. And I actually think I understand why. And boy, just the conversation Ish Wainwright just remains, man, if he could make a shot, he'd be pretty valuable. But the one thing he can do is just have a wide body on screens. So if they have to play small, he's capable of doing that. And he's probably better than David Roddy at defense. So he's capable of that as well. So he's going to continue to play, I think. Isaiah Thomas, I think it's a completely harmless move. 10-day contract. Insurance. That's all it is. I don't think it matters in any way. And, if he does play, I think it could be kind of fun. I think about that playback that we're doing on Wednesday. That could be a fun thing to watch. A couple of things. Well, one more thing, really, I want to ask. What do you think I'm sorry, I'm just jumping around a little bit before we get to some voicemails. What do you think the Suns should do against teams that have bigs that shoot threes?
That's
because there was, a scenario where the last two games they played against the two best Eastern Conference teams, keep that in mind, two great teams, they lost to both of them. Al Horford in one, an incredible game, right? Partially because Nurkic just couldn't keep up with him. And by the way, I think there's a better explanation for that. Our guards need Nurkic's help at the rim. They can't stop guys. The defense works in a way that if Nurkic isn't there, they got a straight line to the rim against a guard who's pretty small. Grayson Allen, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, whoever we want to be. Follow that up with a similar game against the Milwaukee Bucks. You got Lopez out there shooting threes. Nurkic is trying to stop and tag the roller in some way, or at least guard the guy who's coming around the screen, and then get out to the three-point shooting by Lopez. Even Lopez didn't have a great game, but I think a lot of what they were able to create was because Nurkic ended up out in the perimeter. The help was coming off of shooters on the opposite side. The Suns were not able to scramble fast enough to get out to the passes that Damian Lillard was making, and Grayson on his own could not stay in front of Damian Lillard, for his life.
That
underratedly
was a massive, massive issue. I think just the lack of any sort of perimeter defense from the Suns.
Yeah, because the Suns kind of drive guys into Nurkic. That's their goal,
exactly.
Right?
They had no perimeter resistance whatsoever, which kind of makes the point to me. It's not irrelevant, but I think there are teams that are like 5 out, that are like capital F, 5 out. The Celtics to
OKC.
The Celtics to me are one of those teams. OKC is one of those teams.
Yeah.
Then there are teams that are small F, 5 out. And what I mean by that is Milwaukee, and I know this sucks to say that, you just got blitzed by Milwaukee. They made all those threes. I know no one wants to hear, well, they're not going to do it every game in a 7-game series. But, statistically, they're not. Statistically, Bobby Portis and Jay Crowder aren't going to do that to you every game. And so, I don't know, man. My strategy completely is going to change with the context. I know that's not a satisfying answer. Against Boston, I don't know
there's
what you
two
do.
options. I think against Boston, you have to play KD at center. and just
Just
see
what
they
does
do.
Nurk do in that series? He just doesn't play.
He might not. Yeah,
I mean, the other
he might
thing
not play much
we
at
talked
all.
about, like, if you generate enough of an advantage on the offensive glass, then it can neutralize what you're giving up on defense. That's the theory. And Nurkic did have like 7-8 offensive rebounds in one of those Boston games. Was it still enough? No, because Boston hit 25 threes. Could it be enough if Boston only hits 17 threes instead of 25? Yeah, maybe it could. I don't know. It's a really hard challenge and an interesting question for
The other
Vogel
option-
to parse through.
Yeah, because the other option against, like, what they did against OKC is they put KD on Chet, and they put Nurkic on whoever was the worst shooter on the floor at the time, whether it be Lou Dort or who else was on the floor in that game. Whoever the bad shooter was on the floor at the time, that's the other option. Or, and that's just an interesting conversation that I was thinking to myself here, because Nurkic is vital to this team in a way that it's kind of bad how important he is to the team, because there's just so little options when he's off the floor, because Eubanks is not capable of playing defense at anywhere near the level of Nurkic, but also the offense is just, as you've read the stats out on a recent podcast, it just tanks,
Collapses
as soon as he's on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough conversation, and I think that's one of those things. I'm looking at like the standings right now, thinking about who the Suns are potentially playing. There's not a lot of threats for that. I think the Golden State Warriors in some ways could be one of those teams, but yeah.
That was how I was going to finish this conversation anyway before we had to break and then voicemails. I was going to say, let's get out of the play-in first. We're talking about OKC. We're talking about Boston. Those are great sites to set our eyes on ultimately, but they've got some work to do before we even
Well, they got San Antonio twice.
Dude, let's fucking Jesus Christ. Let's beat Philly, Atlanta, and San Antonio first before we talk about any of this shit.
A 4-game win streak sure would help us at least, stay 7-8 in the play-in, because those last 10 games are going to be brutal. But yeah, all right, let's switch. By the way, real quick, are you going to watch March Madness? Or are you going to fill out a bracket?
I never fill out brackets because I just don't think it's that fun. But I don't know enough. So no. The answer is no. I play fantasy sports. I'm in like fantasy leagues every year, but I don't do March Madness. I will watch games, and I do think it's interesting to think about the fact, and just to remind Suns fans that we have a pick this year, and that
first round.
As of today, not only is it first round. Look, I think all of us would be.
It could be a lottery pick. Just kidding.
It wouldn't be a lottery pick. All of us would be thrilled if this was the 30th overall pick, because it would mean we were kicking ass. As of today, if it's any consolation to you, maybe about the fact that we're not kicking ass, it is the 19th pick. Hey, that could be something. Do you want me to? And I really have to do this for the first time. I have no idea what this is going to turn out. Should we read through some recent 19th picks in NBA drafts? Would that make us feel?
Sure, why
would that
not?
make us feel more or less depressed, Mike?
Probably more, but yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm gonna go back a few years to like 20. Like, I'm not gonna count the ones who are super young, like drafted in the last year or two. So, if we go back to like 2020, you've got Sadiq Bey, 19th overall. I'm not reading the guy who was the year before that because he never played in the NBA. The year before that, Kevin Huerter, 2018. That's a good pick for 19.
Yeah.
2017, John Collins. That's a good pick.
Okay.
For 19.
Yeah.
Definitely a good outcome. 2016, Malik Beasley. I would say that's a good outcome. These are guys
all
who
playable
are still
NBA players.
Still in the NBA, still have roles. I thought it was Jeremy Grant. Jerian Grant in 2015. All right, that one's not great. Let's go to 2014. Gary Harris, he did his thing for a few years. 2013, we've got not a guy who ever played in the NBA. So as you can see, crapshoot.
It's either a pretty okay role player or someone who's out of the NBA at the end of his contract.
Yeah, I don't see any like bona fide stars here for sure. But if the idea is that the Suns can, we go back to 2011, Tobias Harris, that's not bad. He's had a very long, successful career.
Yeah.
There's a chance. There is a chance. James Jones's legacy will be on the line this June, and I'm not here to tell you people who he should draft. I have no idea who he should draft because I don't. To bring back a phrase that longtime listeners of the pod know very well, not a draft guy. Mike is not a draft guy. I am not a draft guy. We have people who are draft guys. We're excited to talk
James
to
Jones,
them.
traditionally, not a draft guy.
And I am a little bit excited to dip my toes into some draft coverage here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
I guess I'll watch. I'm going to ask Damon. He already wrote about it, but who's the players I should be watching, and then I'll watch them. That's probably what I'm going to do. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll listen to some voicemails. We'll be right back. (480-420-6553) is our phone number. Call us anytime, day or night. Leave us a voicemail. We'll get to as many as we can on every episode. We got 5 to go through today. Let's check them out, Sam.
Hey guys, this is Mezzy with the Hezzy from the Discord channel. And I wanted to get your guys' take on just a basketball opinion that I have. I have the opinion that if you look historically, especially in the last 20 years, you don't have a top 5 player, even top 3. You just don't have a realistic chance at an NBA championship. There are obviously outliers, but I think if you look at it, the league of stars, and if you don't have one of those truly elite stars, you can have a lot of success, but you just won't win a championship. I'm not saying that says anything about the Suns, just an observation. Wondering if you guys find that to be true or if you don't really buy into that. Thanks.
Do you need a top 5 or even top 3 star
Top
to
threes.
be an NBA champion? What do you think?
This is the classic. First of all, thank you, Mezzy with the Hezzy. Love the name for the question. This is the classic debate. You know, people have been talking about this in basketball for years, and you talk about the outliers. I think those outliers that people have always referenced remain the same. The 04 Pistons get brought up a lot. They did it without, just a cohesive unit of good players, but obviously not great players. Then there was Dirk in 2011. Since Dirk in 2011, has there been an example of a championship team
2019
that did not
maybe?
have a top 5 player?
Raptors?
With Kawhi?
Yeah, that's
with
probably
Kawhi
top.
playing
He's
at-
probably top 5.
I think he was top 5. He maybe wasn't
But
top
if
3,
he-
but he was top 5.
Here's my only quibble with this. If he didn't win the championship that year, do you think we would have remembered him as a top 5 player that year?
I think that's a really good point, that there is sort of a self-serving bias in it of like how people are remembered. Like if you win, then people just think of you as better than if you lose. That might be true. I'll tell you what, to take the Suns out of this conversation for a second, what's really going to test this theory is Boston this year. Because Boston is far and away the best regular season team in the NBA. I don't think Jason Tatum is a top 5 player, though. Maybe some people would quibble with that. I don't think that many people would quibble with that, though. I think it's pretty fair to say he's not really a top 5 player. So if they win this year, not to say I'm rooting for that per se, but then it basically proves this theory wrong because they would be capable of doing it. If they don't win this year, if they collapse again to the Miami Heat in a 1 versus 8 battle in the first round, then yeah, Mezzy, you got more evidence for your point.
I think there are times, like I even think back to the 2010-ish Lakers championships, that Kobe may have been considered a top 5 player before the championships, but he definitely was after the championships. And like if the Suns had won at any point during the Steve Nash run, we would say, well, absolutely, Steve Nash was a top 5 player, top 3 player during that time. But because they didn't, then it paints our memory a little bit differently. I think it's really difficult to look in hindsight with like full clarity of what was happening during that time. But more than anything else, yes, the reason I bring that up just from looking back into the past is because I think it's actually pretty hard to name the top 5 players in the NBA now. This year, right now. Because, look, as much as people on Reddit thought the opinion we had on ranking guys was controversial a few weeks ago, if you name a top 5 players in the NBA right now, there's a good chance that your opinion of what those top 5 players will be after the NBA playoffs is going to shift, is going to be different. Because right now, the way players are currently playing and the way some of the older players have sort of maybe fallen down in the standings, that's going to impact how you feel about them. And if those players, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry, for example, are incredible in the playoffs, then you're going to think, of course, they were a top 5 player during this year.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
Problem is,
SGA has an insane run. Jokic has another insane run.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards, You know, one of these other guys that you don't really think about, Jason Tatum.
I don't know. I hope not. Jason Tatum, yes. I think that there's just too many good players in the NBA, and people talk about this all the time too. It's why ranking, is a futile exercise. If you polled everyone, all the NBA fans, all the pundits, like who is a lock in the top 5 right now, I would give you maybe 2 names. I think everyone has Jokic in their top 5. If you don't have Jokic in your top 5, you're stupid, and you don't know ball.
Yeah.
And maybe 3 names. Luka is top 5. I hate to admit it, but he is. He's that level of talent.
His stats are absurd. Yeah.
I think it might be true that, players in the long term still won't want to play with him and he'll never find success. We'll see. That's going to be put to the test this year as well.
Yeah.
And then the third guy is Giannis. I mean, Giannis is just top 5. He is. But outside of that, anyone makes a particular run. I think SGA, a lot of people would say, well, he has to prove something in the playoffs. He's not really top 5. But then if they make the finals this year, everyone's suddenly going to have him in the top 5.
He's going to be second in MVP voting.
There are totally random, if fucking the Knicks make the Western, if the Knicks make the Eastern Conference Finals randomly this year, then there are going to be people saying suddenly Jalen Brunson is the top 5 player in the NBA. This sort of stuff just happens every year in the NBA where guys just get their due, whether they really deserve it or not. And it's such a tough conversation. I do hold on to that fundamental faith, though, that you can win a championship without one of those guys. I know it's been a long time since 2011, but it can still happen.
Devin Booker was a top 5 player in the NBA playoffs last year. The team wasn't, but, I don't know. It's hard to really talk about it because it's just the NBA is in flux right now. It's a changeover of generational talent, I think. And how we look at this era 10 years from now is going to be really different than how we're looking at it right now in real time. Here we go. Here's another one.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Mike. This is Dancing Barrow from the Discord. Hey, I just wanted to know, I feel like we have to get away from the reactionary takes after each game, get back to building something, both game by game and in the long run. I believe if we keep shuffling players in and out of the lineup, in and out of the organization, we're never going to grow as a team. And ultimately, I feel like all the rings cultures is leading to impulsive moves and, setting ourselves up to fail. So let's see what these guys can do. How can they grow? The alternative for a team without control of their draft and in salary cap hell is quite frightening. Kind of in closing, we know championships are hard to come by and fandom can't come down to the sole pursuit of an ever-elusive ring. That's setting ourselves up to fail and registering the past 5 decades of our fandom meaningless anyway. Sam, you tweeted something, I believe, yesterday about we'll over a Devin Booker trade one day. I'd like to pay tribute to Catherine O'Hara's character, lecturing Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone after he says he hopes his family disappears. Sam, I hope you don't mean that.
I feel like that was a well-written question. I don't know if that's just how he talks, if he's that smooth. But look,
it was.
It's more of a point. It's more of a point than a question he's making here, right? He's not necessarily asking a question, and I think he's right in that he wants the Suns, I think as a fan base, but even as an organization, to not be overly reactionary on a game by game basis. And,
the organization, I don't think is. Unless you're if you're just talking about Vogel's rotations, okay, maybe that's a different
or
thing.
Isaiah Thomas panic signing. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, sure.
And just talking about how what's important is to build a team in the long term. And I think he's right, but I will say that they traded for 35-year-old Kevin Durant. They traded Chris Paul for 30-year-old Bradley Beal, who's oft injured. They traded DeAndre for Yusuf Nurkic, who's also oft injured. There's a time limit on what they're capable of doing with this team. Maybe they can use the pieces of the team to continue and extend that time period for a longer period of time as they build and grow and change. But for Suns fans to feel ring culture breathing down their neck, that's a result, I think, of the organizational decisions that they made to create this team in the way that they did, and it makes perfect sense. I try to be not impulsive or not crazy, honestly, after losses. Mostly just log off the internet because I know people are
I commend you for the fact this is actually like our conversation to start off this pod today was the first time really that I was hearing your opinion on the game yesterday, which I appreciated because you just logged off. I mean, I had to tweet through it, but you just logged off. I commend you for that.
Yeah, I can't deal with people being insane. I just am like, I'm going to take a break. I know what people are going to say, and I know it's not going to make me feel good. And some of the things I will agree with, and some of the things I'll vehemently disagree with.
I think that's I think I'm going to offend you for a second by calling you Gen X. I know you're not actually Gen X.
No, I'm
you're
not.
a millennial.
Yeah.
But that's the older generational divide in you and me, I think, is when to go outside and touch grass. And
well,
people
often
my
I'm
age,
just playing video games with other toxic people. So
okay. Well, but people my
shift.
age,
Yeah.
we just really want to feel bad. It's one of our core tenets is we want to doom scroll and just make ourselves feel worse.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. I do have I tend to have a good understanding of trying to keep my mentality intact as much as possible, but it's still, I fail to do that often as well. The thing is, it's so much easier to think long-term and think about the long-term growth of this team if they were young, but they're not. So it's just, it's difficult to think about that over a longer period of time. If you're rooting for the Suns, and you strip away all sense of ring culture in general, you are having a better time. Without a doubt, you're having a better time. So if you're capable of doing that, I commend you. I think it's difficult because of the position the Suns have put themselves in to do that, and I don't blame fans for doing that, I guess.
I think you said it perfectly, and I think the reaction for some fans is they'll just have to tune out a little bit and maybe pay more attention once they actually get in the playoffs if they don't feel that they're capable of like watching any particular regular season loss without feeling that impending weight, that doom upon them. But for other fans, obviously it's a good idea to always remind people to chill out a little bit and just kind of like enjoy the ride. It's just so much easier said than done.
I think the main thing for me is don't use the Suns team playing badly as an excuse to treat other people poorly. Just try not to do that. That's the main thing that I would recommend doing. And I've done it before. Don't get me wrong. We all succumb to this from time to time. But that's the thing that I try to avoid at all costs. All right, here's some more.
Hey, Tabline guys. It is Pete. And the last time I called, since some time, things aren't looking very good. And there's been a burning question in my mind since a recent playback stream. We discussed KFC pizzas, and my question for the two of you is, I really want to gauge how dedicated the two of you are, so I wanted to see how many KFC pizzas would you eat if it meant the Suns won a championship? Mike, I'm going to give you a 2 pizza handicap, given you're a little bit older than Sam, so looking forward to hearing how dedicated the two of you are. All right, bye.
He's looking out for my physical health.
Incredible
by
question,
giving me a cheat. I would eat as many as I physically could, I think.
Well, can I just say right now?
It probably wouldn't kill me, right?
This is not the question. No, it wouldn't kill you. It wouldn't kill you. It's just kind of gross. Like, we looked up the nutritional, the caloric. I don't remember how many calories it is anymore, but like it's less than you'd expect. And to that end, I do think it would be gross. This is not the question you asked, Pete, but I will say I'm willing to make a pledge on this podcast right now, because I want to believe this is, if anyone ever questions my fandom, this is how much I want to believe in this team, that if the Suns win a championship this year, I will order and eat a pizza for 30 days straight. The 30 days straight. Yes, I will. You can hold me to this. If the Suns win an NBA championship this year, and I will post the before and after pictures every day on Twitter, I will eat 30 straight pizzas in 30 days. That is what I will do if the Suns.
It's low risk right now based on how they're playing. But who knows?
I know it is.
Maybe Isaiah Thomas fixes everything.
I would so love for
figure out which Isaiah Thomas I'm talking about there
to come true, guys, because I am so serious. That is how many pizzas I would eat. I will eat 30 straight pizzas if the Suns win this year.
Okay. Well, I don't think I can top that, so I'm just going to leave it at that one. Here we go.
Mike and Sam. The Suns have had 6 former players coach the team on either a permanent or interim basis. How many of them can you name? And can you name a year in which they either played for the team or coached for the team? Or both? Thanks, guys.
All right. So he said the Suns have had 6 former players coach the team on a permanent or interim, which feels like a clue, basis. How many can you name? And can you name a year that they either played or coached? Hornacek was the first one I thought of.
Hornacek, that's 1 of 6. Are these former? He can't respond to me. These are former players, like just former NBA players. I'm assuming, not necessarily former Suns.
Oh,
because,
that's interesting. I assumed
Monty
it was
Williams.
former Suns. Yeah,
Monty Williams is a former NBA player.
Yeah,
but I don't know if he counts.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, Hornacek,
Let's start with
2014 and 1991. There you go.
Let's start with the Suns. So, and then we'll add if we have to. So Jeff Hornacek, former Sun.
Yeah. Are there any other players?
Paul Westphal, former Sun.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good
Coached
one.
the team in the 90s.
Yeah.
I want to say it has to be including former NBA players too, because I can't think of. But I don't know the early history of the
Earl
team
Watson was a former player.
that well. Earl Watson, former player.
Did he play for the Suns?
Don't think so.
No, I have to check. I don't think he did either, but now I have to double check. You can see me Googling here on the screen.
That's okay.
No.
Didn't play for the Suns. So Earl Watson, former player. Monty Williams, former player.
Jeff Hornacek, former player. Paul Westphal. Yeah.
Paul Westphal.
We
So
got
that's 4.
4?
Lindsey Hunter, former player.
There you go. That's a good one.
And this is just like, I mean, the problem is the Suns have had a lot of coaches in the past decade.
Alvin Gentry didn't play. Mike D'Antoni.
Alvin Gentry didn't play. Mike didn't play.
He played in Italy.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Sorry, Mike.
That's all I got.
Jay Triano didn't play. Koshkov didn't play. So, yeah, I think we just got to be missing someone. I think we have 5 out of 6. I don't know who the 6th one is.
That's not bad considering both of us, our fan bases started in the 2010s. Or, our fandom started in
2004. Yeah.
2004. Yeah, that's true. 2000s. So not that long. 20 years ago now. That's weird to think about. All right, last one.
Someone will yell at us about that one for who the 6th one is.
They're
sure
yelling at
gets
their radio stereo.
Yeah, sorry guys if it's obvious.
Right now, yeah.
Hey guys, I'd like to remain anonymous. I'm just wondering if you guys have any legit, positive things that you could inject into the fans that are dying right now. Maybe something to look forward to before the season ends. Do you think we'll make the playoffs? Thanks.
I think they will make the playoffs. Yeah,
I agree. I think they will make the playoffs. Yeah. I even think that they can still ascend to, say, the 5th or 6th seed.
Yeah.
And get a really awesome favorable matchup in the first round. And as for other optimistic, positive things, just that we've talked about in this pod today, Bradley Beal waking up and playing his best basketball yet as a Sun. Now that he's, I know, finally healthy. Knock on wood. We'll see. But playing his best basketball yet over the past 2 weeks is an encouraging sign. Grayson Allen continues to shoot the hell out of the ball. If Devin Booker just wakes up a little bit right now, and like Nurk, all things considered, Nurk can't even eat. He can't even drink water right now. I think he's playing pretty well given the circumstances. So I do think there are still things to like about the team right now. I know we feel a lot of this pressure. But, there are definitely positive things to talk about. Again, I feel like the tone, of this pod today has been just a lot more balanced. We've talked about negative things, but I think it's been a lot more balanced than it would have been if we had hit the record button immediately after the Milwaukee loss yesterday.
Yeah. I got another one. Devin Booker released a Nike shoe this year to great success from all the metrics that I've seen. And I think it looks good. I think the marketing has been great. And I think it's been fun to see him get that kind of credit on a national stage and to see Suns fans desperate to give him the support that they've been giving him for a really long time. And I think that's been a really fun thing so far this year. And if you're a Suns fan who got those shoes, congratulations. If you're somebody like me who's maybe waiting to see what the other colorways are, he wore a really great pair in that Milwaukee game. And I'm hoping that one becomes available at some point because I really like that colorway. But we got another one coming in April. The black ones that are named after his...
Is that the Haven one?
The Haven ones named after his dog, yeah. So
like
those are pretty cool,
actually.
yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
And that's been a fun thing to see so far this year. Otherwise, like, I know, here's the thing. We have gotten to watch Kevin Durant, an all-time great, Devin Booker, an all-time Suns great, and then Bradley Beal, a former All-Star, an excellent player, play for the Suns this year. The only reason that it feels not as fun as it should is just the weight of expectations, and that's it. And that, I think, to the point of I forget who it was that talked to us, I think it was Dancing Barrow from our Discord. If you strip away ring culture from it, you probably can enjoy a lot of it a little bit more. And that's part of it. Look, we've gotten to see Kevin Durant. We've gotten to see Devin Booker. And overall, that's pretty fun. And I think there is a way to enjoy that if you're just maybe log off of Twitter after Suns games the way I do and just chill, unless it's a win, and then you can go on there and celebrate with your favorite memes. You got anything else?
Touch dirt if you
touch
can't
dirt
find grass
in
because it's Phoenix. Yeah.
Touch dirt.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you, anonymous caller. And that's all we got. If you want to give us a call at some point, 480-420-6553. Thank you to everyone who gave us a call this week. A lot of people mentioned our Discord. If you'd like to sign up and join us on Discord, patreon.com/thetimeline. Only $6 a month for an extra podcast every week. We'll be back midweek with another episode this week. Maybe talking draft. I don't know what we're going to talk about.
Maybe
midweek,
talking draft.
Yeah.
Playback Wednesday night against the Sixers. Be there. We will win, or else we will riot. Join
That's
with
right.
us.
Ethicalhoops.com. We're gonna be taking down some of the merch that we got on ethicalhoops.com soon. So if you want anything in there that you haven't bought yet, now's your chance to buy something. Maybe have some more new stuff up pretty soon. We appreciate you all, and we'll be back midweek.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.